All right, Diablo players. So they just dropped this official video called Burning Questions, and it's going to actually touch up upon a lot of things. We're going to be talking about buffs in the game, the armory, we're talking about minimap, and the coolest thing is class balance. I think this is a huge thing. And then also Obol vendor, loot filter, profane, mind cages, and then also seasonal mechanics. So let's go and check it out, and I'll give you guys my honest reaction.
Hey everyone, I'm Bloodshed from the community team.
What's up, Bloodshed?
We'll be keeping a close eye on your feedback, questions, and everything surrounding the season and beyond. So today, instead of me just giving you the answers, we thought it'd be cool to just go out into the Blizzard halls and ask the developer these questions personally right at their desk. So let's go ahead and kick this off, shall we? So if you've played endgame, D4 like we all have, you'll notice there's buffs everywhere that I can see. Is there any plan to maybe add a priority system or maybe only showcase buffs that are important to the player?
Yeah, the
buff bars. Yeah, because there's so many that you don't need. Because you can only have so much.
In our gameplay loop. On the class design side, when we're looking to make new effects that might have this kind of trigger, we will also look to add some kind of other visual element. I think Banished Lord's Talisman is a unique item that's a pretty good example of that. It has this glow and sound effect on your character whenever it's triggered and it's ready.
I didn't even know that.
That it's available. We're definitely going to be looking into doing more things like that, as well as updates to the buff bar, just to really make sure that you have all the information.
If they want some feedback, I'm going to give them the feedback as an option, because I know in PoE you have kind of some options for this, but you could select which buffs you want to appear, because some buffs, like, you just want to know, that number, like for Banished Lord's Talisman, hits 275, whereas like there's these other buffs, like for example, like Reading the Starless Skies, you may not need that, because like you know that, like, okay, I'm just going to be spamming my core skill. I don't need to visually see that. I need room for my other buffs and stuff, right? So I think that would be my suggestion. Let us turn things on and off.
Can we get everything to switch over, like transmogs, gems, things like that?
That's absolutely something we're looking at. The version of the Armory that we released was definitely the first draft of that. And we absolutely wanted to add all of these features, but we really just wanted to make sure that we got that function out as soon as possible. And so over time, we're going to be adding in those abilities to save the gem slots and save the transmogs. That's absolutely something we're looking at.
Oh, I didn't even know it changed transmogs.
Like the Tree of Whispers, the mini map.
So it's going to be nice.
So many icons. It's kind of hard to navigate sometimes.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, especially with the Tree of Whispers, like you said. We updated that in the season, added those new crafters and
yeah, it's a lot of clutter.
It's kind of cluttered. Yeah. I totally agree, and that's something I can definitely talk with the UI and the UX team to find ways to improve that, because I agree it's definitely not ideal given the current state.
So some builds are great, some builds are not so great.
Class balance, yes.
Yeah.
The Necro versus the Spiritborn.
A big game, man. There's so many things going on, right? You got all kinds of legendaries, and you got skills, and you got classes, you got Paragon. There's just naturally going to be some outliers sometimes. Some things are going to be strong, some are going to be weak. We're working really
billions
hard to make
versus
sure
the trillions.
Best possible, but it's a hard job.
Yeah, sometimes you have like one random key passive that you're like, oh, that's a multiplier.
Yeah, and we want to add in brand new stuff every season that's flashy and exciting. And sometimes that misses the mark.
The Hoda Quake is kind of cool.
We're so excited about making this thing cool, we tune up the numbers just a little too high.
Class balance is always a hot topic for the community. Could you maybe shed any insight on what you're looking to do with the team?
I'm actually looking at what this background is. Wait, is there? I don't know if this is a new class, but there is definitely either revive for the Necromancer. It's kind of hard to see the skills. It almost looks like Sork in the background, but I think these guys, either they're not attacking, right, or you have summon like goats as a pet. I don't know. Just mentioning maybe some secrets coming.
Blood Wave. Incredibly fun to use, very visual. It changes up the way the gameplay feels, it targets differently, it looks different. But I think one area that it kind of falls short is on the player journey side. You pick up those new unique pants, right?
Yeah.
And you are just destroying everything. It's just such like a massive amount of power all on one item.
Yeah.
So we want to focus more on each build feeling like there are multiple puzzle pieces you have to collect, which is much more satisfying as you move into the late game.
Okay, so like I'm just gonna go talk about like design philosophy in terms of games. So instead of one item giving you like 10,000% like more damage, or in this game like there's different ways that it interacts, right? Because there's two things that come out and stuff. However, when you make it so there's so many puzzle pieces, that just becomes a game where like you have to collect the entire set before your build becomes maxed out. However, I think this design might be a little bit better than Diablo 3's design, and I'll explain this. So in Diablo 3, until you get that 6-piece set, when you're on 5 pieces, like some builds, they're totally fine. Like the dagger throwing, what is it, Shadow's Mantle, like that build becomes pretty good earlier on, but for some builds, to get that giant multiplier, if you don't have all 6, it doesn't do anything. But in Diablo 4, if they make it so the damage is spread across, like getting this unique, or this and this aspect over there, it kind of adds a little bit more of progression, but it doesn't feel like when you got that one item that your build is like really strong. So hopefully they can kind of adjust it so when you get that one item to drop, it feels more satisfying versus, oh, okay, I just got another number, which is all going to slowly make my build a little bit better. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they tackle that. But curious to know what you guys think on that. Do you guys like it when you get that one item and you get that amazing power spike? Because that makes that item feel like it's super weighty, and when you finally get it to drop or get that GA on that like specific roll to give you good damage, right? It's super satisfying versus, oh, I got it, cool, okay, I need to get 5 more pieces before like my build's done. There's a fine line between making it like too easy and also like too hard, because then it's like, oh, until I get 6, it's not really worth running the set, right? If that makes any sense. Even though I know Diablo 4 currently doesn't have set items, again, it's kind of like that philosophy, right?
Where like, I've done this, now I can accomplish
Exactly.
this thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a little fun thing. Do you want to play a word association game?
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
What is this like black area over here? It's all like all
What
dark.
is it associated with? Anger, frustration.
Yeah,
design
if you
is
guys
messy.
didn't know, certain damage types doesn't really work against barriers, and that's why
And we
barriers are
always
very
experimenting
rough.
with new things, and we put a lot of barrier in this season. Like we love certain things about the barriers, but we're gonna bring them back, and they're gonna be a little bit more tuned, a little bit
refined.
Yeah, a little more refined.
Yeah.
It probably means
All
that
right,
it's going to be
here's a
easier.
question.
Okay.
Okay. The Obol vendor. What the hell?
Yeah, they're nerfed this season by a long shot.
So
Seems undertuned. Any plans to bring him back? Yes, exactly. Because there's no point of like, if you guys didn't know, we are getting a Goblin event. There's a new special Goblin. It only drops Obels. If the Obels are bad, then it just means the new Goblin is bad. So just make these guaranteed GAs. When you're at World Tier 4 and you're like, Paragon 250 or 200 plus, and you're just getting like yellow items.
we're constantly rebalancing.
Hopefully.
The
Here's also a
economy.
suggestion. You can make the Obels a little bit like less common, so you get less of them, but like you get more quality gear, so it doesn't feel like it's just garbage again and again. But technically, if you salvage them, you get materials.
And trying to make it as
see.
satisfying as possible. And I think we unfortunately way overshot the Obol vendor in Season 7. We want to make sure that the Obol vendor is something that feels really good to engage with. And we also want to make
Look,
sure that
okay. At least they're being honest here with what they're showing. I mean, look at this person's gear here. Okay, is this like the Hoda Quake? But like looking at all of the gear, they're maxed out on masterworking. Everything is pretty much maxed out. Got all of the occult gems. However, look at how many
you
GAs they're
do
getting.
End up going
Look,
and dumping all of your Obols into
Look, not even one GA. So there's zero chance of an upgrade here for this person's build. Again, this person's Para 300. Like, guys have been grinding. But if they're trying to get another, like, I don't know, chess piece over
gambler
here,
that
good
you
luck.
walk away with, feeling satisfied. And we want to make sure that the gambler's coffers are overflowing with wondrous items once again.
Maybe we'll go into a little spicy question. How about
So save your Obels, guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the way that we
Loot
think
filter.
about loot in Diablo 4 right now is that we want you to basically use like every part of the animal. And what I mean by that is when you find loot, when you find legendaries, even if you don't plan to use them, we want you to be able to salvage them and for that to flow into the economy of how you're interacting with systems and like the
But they got no
blacksmith, the
upgrades.
enchanter, and all the different crafters. And so we want those drops to be valuable to you regardless of their context or their position. And we won't ever say never to a loot filter wholesale. And that's something that we want to hear people's feedback from the community on.
To be honest, I think we don't need to hear the feedback. I want to say that it's been overwhelming. Like, we want a loot filter. And I know their idea was like, okay, just drop GAs. GAs is the loot filter, right? But I think that eventually maybe it'll come out at the end of the day. But I want to say that people just want a loot filter. You don't want to sift through like non-GAs,
all the time,
basically.
And I think that's really important. But right now, that's kind of how we're thinking about it.
So another thing players have asked is more ways to control their gameplay. Profane mind cages are really popular, and players are wondering if there's a way that they can incorporate that in these.
I think that's good. It just makes the monsters have more XP. This actually does two different things. One, if you guys didn't know, the pit is basically the only way. Once you're like Para 200, if you're not doing the pit, you're gonna get an XP. If they increase the level of the monsters in outside, like the open world content, like Hell Tides or whatever, this actually adds a little bit more to the game because you're allowing the player to actually farm other forms of content to get XP, because that monster level is heavily dictated by how much XP that you're getting, and that's why, well, you don't really get XP outside of the pit. So if they can adjust the open world to be actually viable to farm for XP, I think this would be a great addition to the game.
Part of Progression 2.0 was to kind of incorporate that into the core gameplay experience, where like you could pick a higher tournament difficulty, which made everything harder, but you got better rewards.
No, what World Tier 5, man?
Totally
Come on.
acknowledge that like the directness of the Profane mind cage was really cool. The way that you could just very intentionally be like, actually, I want this activity to be way harder, and I'm going to very intentionally like use this consumable item I got to make that happen. And so it's something we're going to be keeping in mind for the future on like how can we incorporate that into different activities to potentially bring something like that back in the future.
It seems like people don't want the seasonal mechanics to disappear.
Yeah, this would be great if we just keep everything, man.
Incorporated in different ways.
Could we
like,
keep the vampire powers
was in Nightmare
that we have?
Dungeons. Like maybe you can have like a rare chance for a root hold to spawn or something like that.
Oh, okay,
so that'd be cool.
That would be really cool. I love that idea, for one. But that's one of my favorite things about seasonal development. We do get that kind of feedback where it's like, oh, root holds are awesome. And I do want them to stick around. We're going to continuously be developing seasons with bringing back content in mind. And that kind of applies across the whole game. Like when an activity lands and people are like, this is sick, we don't want to limit ourselves from like ever seeing that again. So yeah, it's not impossible the root holds could come back. It's not impossible that
those are really good for like
any future
getting gear.
Seasonal activities come back either.
That's all for today.
Okay.
If you're craving more Diablo news, you won't have to wait too long, since our upcoming live stream is just around the corner.
Ooh, we have an announcement.
What to expect on the PTR. Shout out to the community for
PTR
asking
already?
questions, and big shout out to the developers
Season
for letting me crash
8?
their space a bit. But that's all for today. We'll see you in Sanctuary.
That was cool. I'm actually really appreciative that they actually went over there. Oh, they're going to give us a date? Oh, it just says play now. Okay. So as far as it goes, I really wish they touch up upon like class balance a little bit more. But it looks like what we're going to get, instead of one item giving so much weight, it's just going to be distributed. As far as like the armory, I guess like we're going to get eventually some buffs to that, making it like work properly with all the gems. And specifically the runes is kind of an issue where it messes up. But if you get transmogs too, that's really great. Overall, I'm pretty excited about this. And they also mentioned like Profane mind cages and as well as root holds, so more likely those will kind of come out, and I'm hoping that we get those in a like mid-season update, or not just like a season, like that's the new season, right? But we're also going to be getting an announcement of the next PTR, and that's really awesome, man. Overall, really excited. That was a really good thing, but let me know what you guys thought of it. Anyways, catch you guys in the next video. Cool stuff indeed, though.